Hello and welcome to Film Teach, self-education through films. If you're interested to know how films can be used to improve our understanding of everyday concepts and phenomena in a useful way, this audio essay series is for you. My name is Disha and I study one film at a time to distill from it practical and useful insights. Today's audio essay, the sixth one on the channel, is inspired by the film Interstellar. The film is liked and admired by people across the globe. Its horror and mystery, as they play out at the global level and also individual, made me think of life quite simply as a journey that's beautiful but not easy. I have learned other things from it as well. Some I've already shared in previous audio essays. Links are provided in the description box. And in this essay, I would like to share with you what I learned about conflict from this stellar film. In Interstellar, conflict bear hugs two galaxies and has many different faces. It takes place inside a father who's divided within himself, among Earth's inhabitants facing its wrath, a scientist whose perception is limited by her sense of duty, and an explorer who is in conflict with reality itself. In another essay titled, "Can the film Interstellar shed light on ways in which unfulfillment can come to define our actions?" I spoke about unfulfillment as the common core of these conflicts, a shared center that lorded over the decisions and choices of the film's characters. But what about conflict itself? What were the driving forces that brought about the conflicts mentioned earlier into being and then exposed the sense of unfulfillment which the story's chief characters were either ill-equipped or unwilling to deal with? I felt this was something worth probing into, since conflict seems to be a constant, one way or another, in the life of an individual, a nation, a planet, and maybe even the universe. So the question I felt compelled to ask was this: can Interstellar help us identify the reasons that cause conflict and offer ways that can resolve it? Can Interstellar help us identify the reasons that cause conflict and find ways that can resolve it? The answers revealed by a thorough engagement with the film's story helped me understand chaos better than before. The answers revealed by a thorough engagement with the film's story helped me understand chaos better than before, and also how much it is made of and embedded in everyday ideas and things. I hope you find it useful too. With that out of the way, let's begin with reasons that caused conflict to manifest in the film Interstellar. 1. Conflict arises when what is supposed to sustain starts to devour instead. Earth is our home. It was the same for all the characters of the film, until it wasn't. Like us, the fictional characters also took Earth's benevolence and kindness and giving nature for granted and held it eternal as life itself. That is what Earth meant to them, solid, unyielding, and least of all, against them, until it was. That the characters representing the common man in the film were never in any way prepared to deal with the crisis is testimony to their limited understanding of Earth's less than benevolent nature. In the Dust Bowl interviews that feature in the film, one of the women interviewed sums up this unknown and unexpected side of nature this way. She says, quote, "You didn't expect this dirt that was giving you this food to turn on you like that and destroy you," unquote. This conflict, although it uses Earth as a springboard, is really about a limited perception coming in contact with a larger, unknown truth. The perception that Earth is benevolent exists in the minds of its inhabitants. That it can be equally catastrophic in its dealing with humans was a truth for which there was little to no room in people's minds. This new perception, clothed in a hellish avatar, was too much for most to wrap their heads around, leading thus to conflict all around them. 2. Conflict arises when you have to choose between what you want to do, and what you're supposed to do. Cooper's deepest desire was to be a pilot. It's what he believed he was born to do and what he was good at. Of course, he was good at many other things as well, being a parent, a farmer, a teacher. But for him, nothing came close to the exhilaration of flying a spacecraft. Therefore, the day he lost his job as a NASA pilot, he lost a part of him as well. This wandering, broken piece of Cooper wanted nothing more than to fly again. His desire was so great that it had managed to become a staple in his nightmares. And when Cooper gets a chance to fulfill his desire, it replaces one nightmare with another. The reality of his circumstance, of having to leave his children, whom he loved deeply, stood right between him and his desire. The draw of a long-held desire and the need to rear his children divided Cooper from within. This observation helped me understand that when our desires pull us in a direction opposite to the direction of our duties, this tug of war can create a conflict. 3. Conflict arises when you are not believed. Murph, Cooper's daughter, was a precocious 10-year-old girl. She was brought up by her father to trust her instincts and gather data that proves them right. However, when the real test of Cooper as a father comes, it seemed to me he let his daughter down by overlooking that which he had taught her himself. In thinking of her reading of the Morse code, which translated to stay, as childish only, he created a great conflict within her, and by choosing to leave his family behind to pursue his dream, he only increased the impact of that conflict. This observation helped me understand that when we are not believed and the evidence we have to prove our beliefs is cast aside carelessly, it can create a deep conflict within us. 4. Conflict arises when you fail to see the bigger picture. Dr. Amelia's commitment to her work is laudable. She's ready to put her life at stake at Miller's Planet in order to retrieve the data. However, in being adamant to follow through with the mission, she overlooks what was really at stake: lives of 1 million people, well-being of her comrades, and time. In trying to stay true to her duty, she was unable to stay true to the need of the hour, thus bringing forth a conflict of gargantuan proportions. This observation helped me understand that in being hyper-focused, it is possible for us to lose sight of the big picture. And when that happens, conflict is bound to surface sooner or later. 5. Conflict arises when a rigid attitude overlooks common sense. Tom, Cooper's son, became a rigid, hardened individual after losing his first son and in generally living a life that was replete with crisis for him and his family. His rigidity turns him against common sense and the goodwill of his own family when he chooses to keep his wife and second child from getting a proper treatment for their failing lungs. This observation taught me that extreme rigidity can keep us from doing the right thing, and the wrong thing can easily attract or bring forth conflict. 6. Conflict arises when ambition turns to madness. The idea of glory, it seems to me, had come to possess Dr. Mann's core. Even after passing a decade in faint hope and solitude, and being literally brought back from the dead by Cooper, he chooses to finish what he had set out to do, even if it meant destroying everything else for it. That his passion had transformed into madness is evident by how he attempts to dock the Endurance despite repeated warnings from Cooper and Amelia. In the end, he blows himself to pieces and damages the craft for them. This observation helped me understand that when we allow our ambition to turn into an obsessive madness, we can give rise to different types and degrees of conflict. How conflict can be resolved, as explored by the film Interstellar. 1. Conflict is resolved when hope overcomes fear. Ever since she left her childhood home, Murph feared going back to her room as it contained too many memories. and she had not yet found the courage to face the past, a time she equated with her father's betrayal. However, when she burns her brother's field to smuggle her sister-in-law and nephew away from his alarming rigidity and towards proper medical help, she uses that time to lunge at one last chance for understanding how to solve the problem of gravity by revisiting her old room. The room fills her with hope and memory, and it is there she finds the watch her father had given her, relaying life-saving information. This observation helped me understand that when we let hope overcome our fears, we can manage to resolve a conflict. 2. Conflict is resolved when selflessness takes over selfishness. When Cooper decided to plunge into the darkness, he had no thought for himself or his life as it could have been had he remained on Earth. His entire being was bent upon saving the people of Earth. In forgetting everything but the task at hand, Cooper was able to save his own life and that of a million others, and in doing so, resolved a conflict that would otherwise have consumed every living being on Earth. This observation helped me understand that when we surrender ourselves to a higher purpose, a higher way, a higher standard, perhaps we can resolve even the most relentless conflicts. The overarching question helped me understand that conflict is a part of nature, and though it may come unannounced, it does not come without reason. But as with all things, even the most unyielding forms of conflict can be brought under control. Before I conclude today's audio essay, here is a summary of all the insights. Reasons that cause conflict in Interstellar. Conflict arises when what is supposed to sustain starts to devour instead. Conflict arises when you have to choose between what you want to do and what you're supposed to do. Conflict arises when you are not believed. Conflict arises when you fail to see the bigger picture. Conflict arises when a rigid attitude overlooks common sense. Conflict arises when ambition turns to madness. And here are the 2 ways in which conflict is resolved in the film. Conflict is resolved when hope overcomes fear. Conflict is resolved when selflessness takes over selfishness. So this is what I found out. What about you? Add your insights in the comments section, and if you found the essay useful, do share it with your friends, and maybe let me know too. Thanks for being here. See you next time.